and they had this presentation meeting, and honestly, so much of it just went completely over my head. Hell's Bowls was written, and I was like, I can't say that again. I cannot say Hell's Bowls again. So I can't even remember what we replaced it with. If it wasn't for me, he would have said it about 100 more times.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Behind the Voice. I'm joined by Russ Bain, who played Red Mac Raith in Banishers, Ghosts of New Eden. Thank you so much for taking the time. How have you been? How's your life going so far?
It's a pleasure. Thanks a lot, Abby. Yeah, thanks for having me. Everything's good, thank you. Yeah. It's been a good week. The game came out almost what was it, five or 6 days ago or something. And
Yeah.
It's been really well received, I think.
Yeah,
from what I've heard. So that's great.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people are actually having a good time playing this game. And to be honest, when I was very excited when the game was announced, and so I was really looking forward to it. It was supposed to release last year, and I was like, oh, because the trailer got announced way back, and I was like, oh my god, I have to wait so many months to play this, and then it got delayed, so I got a little like, oh my god, like, oh, I hope everything is going well on that side, and I hope they can finish the game that they wanted to. So I was pretty much excited, and when I got to play the game, I didn't expect the way it would be. So I was just blown away by everything that the game had, and what you portrayed as Red McRaith was incredible, and I was like so touched by your performance. So thank you for everything that you did in that game. It's just mind blowing to me.
No, thank you. Yeah, from my end, it feels like everything that you've described seems to be quite a common response. People have found it very kind of moving and which is interesting because I'm not a big gamer, and I used to enjoy computer games when I was younger, and they didn't really have that sort of quality. You didn't really hear people talking about being moved or anything. So it's really cool, but it's entirely down to the writing, really. Like the people. It's very intentional. Writing that in that way.
Yeah, right. And the writing is so incredible, and I love the writing. I love everything about the game. But really cool thing that I saw since BAFTA has happened just recently, and Poor Things won so many awards. And I remember that you and Catherine have done like a audio version of it as well, for Poor Things, which is really cool. And so before the movie even came out, so how is that have this audiobook been done for a book which is now a movie?
Yeah, I've not seen the film. I'd like to. I'm disappointed that it's not set in Scotland, which is where the book is set in Glasgow, and I believe the film isn't. But that's just a personal gripe. But yeah, no, doing that book was really amazing because it's a really, I don't know what the film's like. I imagine it's pretty similar, but it's a really bizarre story. But just it's the way it's written is really challenging to read. To be honest, it was found it really difficult because most audiobooks you can kind of breeze through, just like reading. It's quite a nice thing to do, just read a book. But this one was it was really difficult. So I haven't listened to it. Well, wouldn't like to listen to myself back for hours on end, but yeah, it's an amazing bit of work, and I reckon the film's probably pretty amazing too.
Yeah, I haven't watched the movie either, so I would hopefully one day.
Yeah, it's probably not like a real casual watch, probably one of those films that you've got to find the right headspace or something. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's like one of those movies where you have to think about it, like maybe today. I'm not so sure. Maybe I'm gonna have that headspace. I guess so I can watch today. So you have to prepare yourself for that, I guess so.
I think so.
Yeah, and it's cool. You just mentioned like you don't want to listen to yourself. So is that something that is it kind of like a struggle kind of hearing? Because I don't hear to myself. I just I'm gonna skip all my parts that I'm talking, and then I'm gonna listen to the parts that other people are saying.
Yeah, I think so. I suppose it depends a bit, right? Like if you're just listening to your own voice, but often in voice work you're putting on an accent.
Yeah.
So it can be. It depends, but I wouldn't. Yeah, I can't imagine listening to an audiobook of me reading to myself. It just seems weird. But I did a kids one recently, and I'll probably play that in the car for my own kids because then there's like pleasure in that.
Yeah.
if they like it, at least.
That's cool. Yeah, that's amazing. And it's interesting that you're doing audiobooks, you've done games, you've done movies and shows. Was acting always something that you wanted to do ever since, like, as a kid?
No, not as a kid. No, as a kid, I think I've probably always been a bit deluded, like in the sense of thinking that, if I keep, I think you've got to be a bit deluded to be an actor
I
to
guess
some
so, yeah.
degree. And I think when I was younger, I was probably thought I was maybe going to win Wimbledon at tennis, or win the World Cup for Scotland or something. Like I probably always had that fantasy kind of brain that I suppose some people that are, stick around in the acting game have to some extent.
Yeah.
But no, it wasn't. It wasn't like a plan, or I didn't do theatre. It didn't do anything like as a kid. It was very much like as a student, I think. But I've always loved, when I was a kid, I liked performing, but just not, it was kind of in the mirror. Like I always liked impersonations. I could kind of make people laugh when I was younger. So there was always like a performative nature, but I just never thought it just wasn't, I didn't grow up around people who were actors or artists or musicians or things like that. So it just seemed like something that other people did, didn't seem like a possibility for my life,
Oh.
But
so how that kind of
doing it.
Yeah, like how did that kind of change to that direction where, okay, let's try acting and go there?
I did partly because I think the truth is I sort of went to drama school because sort of slightly terrified of, doing the working world. And then I did a play and at college, and there was a guy there who was involved. He was I think he's a poet and a playwright. And he gave me some of his time, and he kind of was the one that he saw me perform in this thing, and he said, "Oh, what do you think about drama school?" And I don't know. To me, it seemed like a really good idea at the time because I had nothing going on and didn't, and I was like, "Yeah, that sounds amazing." I'm just, but I didn't really think about a career or do you know what I mean? It's But then once I went to drama school and met people and the sort of director of the course and everything, you start to get confident and see possibility. And but yeah, that didn't come from like a background or my younger years or anything like that. It was just sort of being around people who I guess were actorly types that were going to have that career, and I started to slowly kind of start thinking, oh, maybe I should do this. And I was in my early 20s and I did not want to get a real job, and that slightly mad part of my brain probably thought, if I do this, I'll be destined for greatness and riches and everything that would come with that. Which, as you can see from my palace, is how it's worked out.
Worked out great. No, I'm like, I know, like, it's one of those fantasies. Like, even everybody has those fantasies where they're like thinking about, oh, if I do this, I'm gonna go on to the highest peak. I'm gonna have all this, and I'm gonna have all that. And it just never works out that way. So, but it's really cool that you leaned into it in something that you sort of like had interest and started doing it and became confident that way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I'd always had interest. Like from being a young kid, I was obsessed with comedy. I loved British comedy. I loved impersonations. I had a real old taste. Like, some kids at my school had things they were into, and I was aware that I liked stuff that was maybe what my parents liked, or certainly people that were 20 years older than me or something. And so I always loved that stuff. But yeah, like you said, it was just, a slow process of getting confident enough to think, oh, I'm going to start trying to do that. And I'm 43 now, and there's part of me that still feels like I haven't kind of begun to do the stuff that I'd actually really like to do, the stuff that the 12-year-old me was into. I haven't sort of done that. Like, I really like comedy, and probably because of the way I look or just my general demeanor, I don't know, but I've kind of like not done that, and kind of played these more maybe more melancholic characters, or people like Red, slightly more kind of internal. And I mean, I find that interesting to do that kind of stuff. like I find drama interesting.
Yeah.
But there's probably a part of me that wants like that kind of external performative comedic stuff to happen.
Yeah, that's
anyway, I don't know what I'm talking
about. That's okay. No, you're right. Like I can understand that feeling too. And like everybody loves comedy. And since you have like that kind of passion, I hope you get that kind of project where you can have not like the other characters that you've played before, but more in a comedy side of things. But like so far that what all the projects that you've done, is there a kind of a role that you will always remember so far in your career?
In a positive way. Yeah.
Sure.
So in terms of like being an actor and feeling that kind of feeling that I think we chase, then I could probably go back to like before I even started out professionally and like think about just doing stuff on the stage when I like, I remember doing stuff. I remember doing this play. I think it's called Women Laughing. I can't even remember, but yeah, it was before I'd even gone to drama school or anything, and I had this part in it, and it was just a bunch of students doing it. But I remember still the feeling. It was like catching some kind of bug. I couldn't wait until the next time we did it. It was just, I loved that. You don't. I mean, I'm not successful enough yet to have had the opportunity to kind of, I guess, find those roles and kind of be selective, or to often you just find it becomes about taking work. That said, last year I did a TV show, and it was the first opportunity I'd had to do sort of a long period of time on a TV show, and I really enjoyed it, but partly because of the part, but a lot because of the environment and the people and the people you get to work with. So that things like that are memorable, but for very different reasons. There's kind of,
absolutely,
it was memorable because it was a very enjoyable time in my life. But in terms of being an actor, performance wise, with TV and all that, you don't often. You're very lucky if you get the chance to really get into a role, and that's why doing something like Red actually, excuse me, was amazing, because it was a lead role, and it was worked on over a long period of time, and it was collaborative, and you as an individual get to be part of the entire journey and the arc, and so you feel invested.
Absolutely.
Whereas often you're coming along just to sort of service a bigger story, and you just come on, say your lines, and but something like this, that's what and actually I've really discovered that voice acting is, when you get the chance to do something like this, it's way beyond kind of what I thought it might be when I started out. It's really you get a lot of freedom, a lot of time. It's much more creative than I imagined, a lot less prescriptive, and really collaborative. It's more like the theatre thing that I described. Than doing TV, for example, in my experience, anyway.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. Like I think now, especially with video games and how many video games are kind of focusing on storytelling, and there's so much different moments and scenes, and because I love these storytelling moments a lot, where it's drama, there's some emotional moments, there's some all kinds of moments that any movie or shows have, but like in games is much more, because there's hours of stories to tell. So I like that in video games, and that's why this game drew me in, because I just loved the what the trailer was showing immediately. I just loved it, on what the fact is and how the game was setting a mood, and I just loved that mood. So that just immediately drove me in. And you talking about Red Mac Raith was like, for me, it's just such a great character. I know one of my friends who also played it, he also was like, it's like Red grew up on me over the course of playing the game, and when I was playing, there were some certain moments that I just like loved Red even more. So what are your kind of thoughts on the character itself? What do you think about what this character is all about?
It's kind of like what's written for you, and then there's like what you bring to it. There's something collaborative about that. For me, Red is one of those kind of, like, I could kind of relate to him, but more for his kind of neuroses. I think he's someone that struggles, like he has a sort of internal struggle, right? He's but obviously he's a warrior with a past.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in, I guess, the idea of someone who has a really like defining past, and then they're trying to change. So Red's past as essentially a killer, right?
Yeah.
As a soldier, a trained killer, to try and he's trying to get away from that and reshape himself.
Yeah.
I find that kind of thing quite interesting. The idea of people trying to change profoundly, and there was a sort of chance with like playing a character like this to try and do that, but to you've still got to feel the person's story, their history.
Mm-hmm.
So he does have flashes where there's like of the past. It's very, and again, like this is down to like the directing and the writing and everything that they give an actor, a performer, the confidence to kind of play the character with all that internal stuff, because it's sometimes there's a feeling with certainly something like this where you want to make the lines kind of pop. Yeah. You want to make everything kind of stand out. There's action. It's it's a big video game. It's not a little kind of but to stay faithful to the story of the character, you need to kind of portray the internal, I suppose, and you need a bit of confidence, I think, to do that.
Yeah,
because you're worried that as an actor, you're sort of worried that your performance will sort of fall flat. But I think the writing was so good, and the way that Red's character was kind of set out was so strong that I think it gave me the confidence to just then try and play the whole thing slightly, smaller. I think that's what I like about it. You're not being filmed, right? So there's freedom to try stuff out with your voice and no pressure. I don't know if I've answered your question. I'm sorry. I think you asked me more about. I've answered my own questions, but yeah.
No, sorry. You're fine. And no, I think you did answer the question, and it's pretty cool because I see that Red has like his own past to deal with, and he deals with it at times when, as you mentioned, like he has flashes of those kind of moments that he comes by and he has to deal with those. And so I like that moment of Red, and I love the connection that Red has with Antea and the relationship, and how in so many ways like Red needs Antea to be there, otherwise I don't think so he can function per se. So and the game gives us a choice of like, will you be able to resurrect her, bring her back, or maybe let her go? And initially when I was playing, I was like, maybe I'm just gonna let her go, maybe that's the right thing. And then I was like, maybe I'm gonna be the evil, I'm gonna bring her back, I'm gonna kill everybody to bring her back. That seems like the right way. So it was just really enjoyable to do all that. But you mentioned that you guys were not filmed per se, so I believe this was all voice acting then, like it was not motion capture and stuff like that.
It was all voice. There was a bit, there was, I'm trying to remember there was some stuff I think for the trailer where we had mocap stuff on, but no, it was all voice. And sometimes we were in the room together, but say the vast majority of the time we weren't in the room together. So there's some scenes that we recorded side by side.
Wow.
And but mostly not, and mostly without the cue of the other person. So it's quite, that's nothing to do with me, but it's quite clever how they kind of put it together and make it sound like a live dramatic scene,
Absolutely. It's pretty cool to see how that works out every single time. Like, I don't know how they do it, but it just seems like you guys are having actual conversation and you're right in front of each other. So it's pretty cool. Is it ever odd feeling to have your lines are being fed and you don't have a person in front of you to kind of converse and do your own lines?
Yeah, it's a bit. The lines aren't even fed, so you're just kind of reading your own lines. Like I think I recorded maybe more of my stuff first. I don't know. There was very infrequently did I have the chance to respond, and I suppose that's what usually when you're acting, you're responding to what's being said. So it's a bit different. But the good thing is you're given, obviously, you can maybe do a few different takes,
Yeah.
and they'll pick that later. But yeah, in an ideal world, I suppose you would do it. You're both. I mean, I like doing it like that. You
Yeah.
know, the sessions feel a little more alive and what have you. But it's just not always possible to do that.
Have you ever wanted to download these videos from YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, wherever, and you find these websites to download it, but there's always ads upon ads that you have to wait to download a video? It's just so much of a hassle. Well, 4K Video Downloader can help you right there. You can download videos from any platform in the highest quality possible. Not only that, if you want to download a song, you can actually download the video in an audio format too. And there's much more that 4K Video Downloader provides. So click the link in the description below to check out 4K Video Downloader. And now let's jump back into the video.
Amika was working a lot. She's like on a big TV show. So she was working all the time.
Yeah. I was wondering if I could have her in the podcast as well, but I understand like her schedule must be tight and it must be like insane to figure out time. So I completely understand that fact. But it'll be an honor to have her because both of you guys did such an incredible job, and it was so interesting to see the storyline and how everything happened in the game. Is just super fun. And so do you kind of remember the first kind of conversations between you and the team about like the character? What were you kind of told initially of what this character is all about?
Yeah, it's funny. It was so long ago, and because we've been doing it for a while, and then I think there was quite a long gap. I can't actually remember when I got cast in this, but it was like talking years, and I do remember having, because it never happened before where. I've never had a lead role in a video game. Done video game. Well, actually, no, I did do the Game of Thrones one, I guess. But this one, I don't know, it was just a bigger thing. And they had this presentation meeting, and honestly, so much of it just went completely over my head. There's a certain, like when it comes to the sort of fantasy world, my brain just doesn't sort of absorb stuff as easily as I'd like it to. So I remember in that early meeting coming away from it just being like, okay, I think I get it, and then not really. But kind of. But there was a big I think at least one, maybe two meetings in the beginning where we were kind of explained the world by people who are far cleverer than me, like the writers are just Elise Galmar, who's and there are others, but she's the person that I kind of just acknowledge all the time in my mind. She came up with an awful lot of the characterization and story, and like really mind blowing. And when I met her, I remember like when we had food stuff together, and obviously she was on the line quite a lot, but I remember when I met her in person, and she just just one of those people you meet and you go, wow, like to the kind of to visualize the whole story in the world. And because I write a bit myself, but I'm really comfortable in writing like dialogue and characters and things like that, but conceiving of like whole worlds and stories, and then having to remember that this is ultimately a game, so there's got to be gameplay as well. It's incredible, amazing.
Yeah, it is incredible.
I feel I don't mean this to sound like kind of false humility or anything, but genuinely as a voice actor, you feel like my part in it, despite being a quite prominent part, does feel sort of small, compared to what people have actually conceived of and produced. And this is I feel like I don't know if there's plans for the world of Red and Antea and Banishers to go further, but it does feel like one of those kind of worlds where there's a lot of scope.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. Like, there's a lot that goes into making a game, and there's a lot of things that people need to think about. This has to be in the right way. This has to be in the right way, so that whoever is playing it, don't have a bad time playing it. Because if it's not that playable, then people get angry, or there's a lot of disappointments, and whatever you worked on for all that, it just doesn't work out. So it's like kudos to them that they did all this, but even kudos to you that you were able to do all this work. Even though like it was a fantasy and it was like initially kind of hard to understand, but I'm happy that everything worked out because you've done such a great job, and it just shows like the character. I'm really like connected to the characters, and it's just not only Red, but I think majority of the characters that are in the game, I just somehow I'm connected. I'm able to connect immediately when the player is going around and having conversations with other people, and I'm able to connect with those other people as well, which doesn't really happen in a lot of video games, similar style or similar length.
Do you feel that? Do you feel that's do you feel that's important when you're playing the game? Do you have a feeling like this is, the relationships and the connections to the characters is as important as the actual gameplay itself, like for you as a gamer?
Yeah. For me, I can only, I think, speak for me, but I feel like especially for games like this where it's story is the most important thing, is the focus, as one of the focuses as well. So it's important that I can connect with the character in some way. It just doesn't feel, the characters cannot be like as a completely blank person where it's just like there's no emotion or there's no connection with anybody else. So it just feels, because when that happens, then I'm not able to understand the person's story or his will or her will, like what they are trying to achieve, what they're trying to do, their goals. It's not believable at that point. So when it's believable a little bit, then you can get behind their ambitions and their goals, and then the story gets even more interesting that way. So that's it's better.
Yeah, just like that's. I can relate to that. I watch a lot of TV, and I find believability is really important.
Yeah.
Like to get invested in the character, right?
Yeah. It's just like, as I said, it's like TV shows as well. Like if I cannot invest in a character, I will not be able to enjoy it as much as anybody else's, and that kind of destroys the story that they're trying to tell at times. When I'm like, I'm not really invested. I'm not able to understand their vision. And that kind of sucks. And that's where I feel like this game is, because there's a lot of games who also try to have this narrative story, but some of it works and some of it doesn't work. And when it doesn't work, it's like a lot of people are able to see it, that it's not working. And so that's where the interest kind of drops, and they no longer care about what's happening in the story. And they just want to be like, oh, fine, I'm just going to play this and move along, I guess. So it kind of goes both ways. And especially in games, it goes both ways, because in TV shows, it's like just the character has to be believable. But in games like that, and then also the gameplay has to be good enough and not to be too boring, so that you cannot, whenever it goes from story to gameplay, you don't want to be in a position where, oh, I have to play this game now. Like, it's too boring. Like, so I'm glad that in this game, it's like, it's a good mixture. And I love, having this combat moments. Get killed a lot, but I love having these combat moments. It's fun. Yeah.
Did you find there was a lot of the choices you had to make? Did you find that kind of troubling?
Yeah, the choices were quite fun, actually. Because initially it was the idea was like either to let Antea go or to bring her back. And I thought, like, as I mentioned, like I thought like Antea letting her go would be good, but then I was like, then the first choice when came in was to sacrifice or to let this person go. And I was like, what happens if I go sacrificing or blaming? I think it was. Like, what if I do blame? How would that look? And when I saw it, it just looked so brutal, where Red is just putting their hands and just killing them. And I was like, this is so brutal. I like it. So I just started doing that more. And sometimes I was like, maybe I'm just going to let him just pass on and not let him be blamed.
Yeah.
So it's fun to go in that direction, because I've thought in my head, like, I'm going to let Antea live. I'll resurrect her back again. So whatever happens, I'm going to blame that person. But if something happens where I'm like, okay, this guy cannot be blamed, then that's probably one time that I've like not blamed the person and let him go. But every other time I'm just blame the guy and just like,
you're just okay.
I'm going to raise Antea back. This is going to happen. So it's like evil in some ways, but it's really fun. It's really cool to look at.
I've not played it. So I'm listening to you talk about it, and it's all just through what I know from the script and memory, but I haven't actually played the game, so I really want to I'd like to play it. So
that'd be great. Yeah, I hope you get the possibility to play it. I know you talked about earlier that you don't play games and you have played like way back. Do you remember any of the games that you played back at any time?
Do you know what? There's the reason I don't play games is not because I don't like them. I mean, they kind of take over my life a bit. Like if I start playing, and when I was studying, I was completely obsessed with a game called Football Manager now. It was called Championship Manager, and that I mean, I don't know what would have happened. I think my life would be different if I hadn't played that game. And then I can't remember what age I was, but at some point I got an Xbox, and then played Red Dead Redemption.
Oh wow!
The first one.
First one, yeah.
And I'd never played a game like that.
Mm-hmm.
Is it called an open world?
Yeah.
You know, like, is that what's good? I'd never played a game like that, and I mean, that was. I think in the end I had to get rid of. I gave the Xbox to my nephew because I was like, I need it out of the house, and so I'm actually scared to go back. And but I would really like to play Banishers for obvious reasons, and it does actually really appeal to me. So I haven't got a console, but I have 2 young children and a wife that probably has expectations of me beyond being up at 4 o'clock in the morning playing Banishers, listening to myself. But I would really like to play it.
Yeah.
In fact, I've sort of seen a bit of it, obviously, but looks amazing.
Was it? Did you see all the kind of scenes during the shooting, or was it after?
A bit. We saw some stuff in. It was kind of like almost like a sketch, you know. Well, it hadn't been coloured in yet, so we saw some stuff. It looked nothing like it would now, and then we saw. We went to Paris to do like a question, and because it's Don't Nod are in Paris, so we went there and did a kind of interview stuff, and they showed us the game, and I kind of did the controller a little bit, but I think they want it because neither Amica or I are gamers, so I think they thought, well, okay, just for filming it, we'll just let someone else do the actual gameplay. So didn't trust us, but at some point, hopefully, I'll get a chance to play it.
Yeah, I would love to have you get the chance to play it. It's a really fun game, and really.
Well, I was thinking about streaming. You know, like I have a friend that plays. And I've forgotten the game he's in, but a friend who Alex Jordan, and he was in Game of Thrones with me, and he does streaming for a game he's in, and he plays along with I was thinking that would be a cool thing to do.
Definitely
to kind of play as Red, but I don't know.
I think if you do that, I think a lot of people would be quite interested, because a lot of people who don't play games and who have been in a game, and they're probably the first time or whatever, they've been in a game and the game is getting good reception, and they're like, maybe I should stream it, and then the community comes in and supports them, and they watch it with them. Maybe some of them have played it, some of them haven't played it, but they still are there. They're watching and they enjoy. So I think you'll have a good time if you want to do that, because a lot of people are kind of
I was thinking about it.
That'd be great. That'd be fun. I would love to see that.
Okay, I'll let you know.
Awesome. Tell me about like the recording process for this. Like how did it all went by? Because there must be some information that was given to you on how this character should sound like, and maybe something from you that you wanted to bring in as well. So how was that all mixed together?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's funny, like you do loads of auditions, right? Mm-hmm. So you send out, like voice auditions, and then you forget about them.
Yeah.
And this one, I think, from memory, like was quite a long time between, and I have a feeling someone else might have been cast initially, or they were. I think might have got that wrong. But so then by the time it comes around, and I kind of do lots of voices, right? I don't tend to record in my own voice. I'll do lots of different accents. So then when you get the job, you're like, I can't remember how I did this character, And then so the first recording session, you're kind of like, can you play my audition back? And they did. I got some. You get a lot of information about the story and the context, and like I said about that kind of fantasy stuff that definitely went over my head a bit. But it's really, I suppose, it's my job to kind of find the voice.
Yeah.
And with the directors, so we had 3 different directors throughout the course of the time we were recording. I think it recorded over like maybe 2 years or something. So it was like a long time.
Yeah.
And then there was like kind of, and I do remember kind of, because there's lots of ways to go. And one thing I found with Red is I kind of kept feeling like I needed to situate him in a certain time in history, you know, like the 17th, 16th century, or whatever. And but then some of the writing felt modern. So by trying to find the voice, anyway, this is a boring answer, but I think I'm boring myself. So God knows what
no, not at all.
Right.
Not at
all. I think it's mostly left up to me, really.
Yeah.
Obviously, you get a lot of direct in terms of what the voice actually sounds like, and then you know the directors were all great, and you know they're really helpful in giving you ideas of, you know, it's really collaborative. And there's a guy called Devin who was one of the writers, and he was really helpful at kind of just, you know, they're open to changing things all the time, which is really cool. You know, like you don't always get that right. And, but they're always really, you know, sometimes you get writers that might be precious over a particular word or something, but they're always like really open to changing. And sometimes it would just be little Scottish isms, you know, little things that might sound a bit better if they you know, stuff like that. So we found it together. It was quite collaborative and found it together. But I'm from Glasgow originally, although I don't really sound it at all, obviously. But I'm sort of quite familiar with Scottish dialect and various turns of phrase. So I tried to put a bit of that in.
And I think it sounded great, and you did a fabulous job. I'm like kind of.
Does Red say "Hell's balls" a lot in the game?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, because if it wasn't for me, he would have said it about 100 more times. Because "Hell's balls" was written, and I was like, I can't say that again. We cannot say "Hell's balls" again. So I can't even remember what we replaced it with.
Yeah,
but there's okay. I wondered how many "Hell's balls" there were in there. But trust me, it would be a lot more.
Oh man, I don't remember how many times you said. I remember. I think at least 1 or 2 times you said it. So I don't have like a counter where I've
that's fine. 1 or 2 is okay.
Yeah, I remember him saying those. So it was like interesting to hear that. I was like, okay, I like it.
Yeah.
I'm just like curious. Like, did you have like any person in mind? Did you take any inspirations from somewhere on how he should be like, and how he should be possibly sounding like?
Not really.
Is that I think mostly
because No, I mean sometimes like I have a kind sometimes I have thoughts around, like when there's a particular a negative, what I think of as sort of negative characteristic of the character, then I'll kind of think about certain people, sometimes like family members or someone close, that I'll kind of think about how they would say something or how they would express something. But not really. I definitely didn't like, you know, model him on any. I've heard that, right? People kind of model a character on someone that they really. I don't like doing that. It makes me feel like I always end up feeling like I have to do a really faithful impression of that person. So I struggle a bit with that, you know. I've heard other actors talk about that. It's like trying to copy a voice or something. I don't know. I end up getting in my head, so I just try and do my own thing a bit.
As a video editor myself, I had to learn a lot of skills every single day, and I continue to do so. And while there are tutorials out there on YouTube, the best way to learn is to actually learn it from someone professional. And Skillshare here will help you just in that. There are so many awesome classes to join, right from video editing to graphic designing, even filmmaking, and many more. These classes are taken by professionals, and you can learn everything at your own pace. And you can click the link in the description right now to get 1 month free on Skillshare. And now let's go back to the video. I remember, I think there's one scene, and there's multiple scenes that I really like, but there's one scene where we are confronting this character called Haskell, It was a great scene. It was a long scene. It was confronting this guy Haskell, who was saying that he is helping all these people, but he was not really. And then we are supposed to be sacrificing or letting him go. And I was like, of course I'm sacrificing him. So I was like, when I sacrificed him, and then it was a full long scene, and then you would say life to the living, and then I was expecting you to continue saying death to the dead, but it was Deborah all of a sudden who Deborah was the person who would say death to the dead. And I felt like, because the way it was done, all of a sudden she's saying that, and then the music is kind of building that way, and that whole scene gave me complete goosebumps. I was not expecting. I was like, what? So it was like a very interesting
Is that in the church?
Yeah,
Does that take place in a church?
In a church, yeah.
I remember that. Yeah. I think actually it's funny you mentioned that one. I seem to remember, like, because there's certain scenes that you take a long time over.
Yeah.
Which actually was the gift of getting to work with this company and do a game of this magnitude and getting time, and it's really cool to hear you say that, because then it feels like, oh, okay, that worked.
Yeah,
like it paid off to invest time in it, because ultimately you're in a studio and it's all you're on the clock, and there's other people there, and everyone's people are paid whatever, and so there's not unlimited time. But I did feel like the people that don't know, they really didn't ever kind of just rush at all. And I remember, it's funny, it's interesting that you mentioned that one, because I remember that particular scene sort of, I think we did maybe worked on it over a couple of sessions, but it's cool when it pays off, that you know that time invested is worth it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of those scenes, which has those kind of moments where I really like it. It was like even in the beginning of the scene where two sisters were having kind of like, one of the sisters was like a person who would leave other people behind if they're not strong enough. And I like those story moments. And then when we have to deal, like Red McRaith and Taya had to deal with these moments and what we have to do, whether sacrifice, let them go, all that stuff. I like those moments because it's all that drama there. And I like to see what kind of interaction this person or Red is making with the other person. So it's just everything in that sense just was very cool and very well done. So I was like really blown away with those moments, but how it was handled, and it was handled very well, and something that I would see in other major kind of big budget games. And I'm like super happy that even like this game might not be as big budget as any other bigger PlayStation games. Let's say I'm happy that story was still the main focus, and that was then kind of not lost. So I'm just glad that we got to see those scenes, and you both have done such a phenomenal job there. When did you first saw like how your character looks like his clothing and everything was like pretty cool to me, because we could change the clothing in the game as well. So it just looked really cool.
I have some of it here.
Oh wow, that's really cool.
I have his
yeah. So awesome.
I have the red scarf here.
Yeah.
And the jewelry.
Yeah, the rings. Yeah.
Yeah, the people that don't nod and focus very generously got a Parisian jeweler, to make this.
Wow. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's lovely.
Yeah, it's cool. I didn't obviously have any involvement in that, but I do remember when seeing him, I was like, oh wow, like the detail is incredible. I remember seeing his hands, and I was like, just like the detail on all the jewelry and the fingernail, and it's incredible. And in terms of what he wears, he just, I think it's all fantastic. I didn't obviously have any input into any of that at all, but it looked completely appropriate, and who I'd like to be. I'd like Red to be.
Yeah, I love the rings. I was like, when you're showing me the rings, I'm like, this is so cool. I love the rings in that game. It's just like they looked really cool with the markings on it. I just like, it's great, and I would like to like have those rings just to see it. And I don't know, just like it just looks pretty cool. But
check eBay in a month's time.
Yeah, definitely there'll be some of those that are lying there. Yeah, of course. But if you had to describe kind of like this game to anybody who has like no idea of what this game really is, how would you kind of describe it in your own way?
Having not played it, I would sort of. I mean, I'm not being funny. I would. I don't think I'm the right person to describe it because
Yeah.
you know, I would be worried I'd do it an injustice, really, because I do feel like for me, I think that the writing, because I'm talking from a kind of Red and Antea perspective.
Yeah.
I don't know about the gameplay or the other characters in it that much, but from the point of view of the central story, I would sort of describe it to someone as a way of looking at both yourself and your kind of the sort of value system thing going on around like your decision making, how selfish or how selfless you want to be in any given moment, and how much your attachment to another person, like the idea of letting go and accepting grief. I think there's a lot about grief in the story. So those kind of don't sound like great ways to sell a video game to me.
No, I mean,
because obviously there's a lot of adventure and action and combat and a lot of stuff going on. But that's why I'm saying I'm probably not the best person to sell it, because from my point of view, I'm thinking about the grief and the the moral decisions, the ethical decisions that have to be made along the way, and the kind of relationship that was written, which I found pretty interesting because it kind of avoided cliche at all turns. It was, Red is, I mean, you said in the beginning, he needs Antea around all the time. He's this kind of, there's a little boy in there, and he's this kind of strong, warrior with a beard and a big rings and whatever. But inside he's just, he's got this kind of, like he's at times he's quite emotionally immature, and I think he needs Antea to help sort of guide him through his own emotional life. And I think to bring that into a game, I find that really interesting. That's like I said, it's not something I experienced when I was playing games, and I think it's really cool. There's sort of educational quality to that, like a kind of, I don't know. We don't get. Don't know about you, but I mean, we get taught that stuff growing up by our, our elders or anything. So to have it kind of in a game and to make the game player think about that stuff, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder if you had like obviously in the game, like there's a choice of whether you want to save kind of Antea or let her go since she's dead and she's a ghost. What would you kind of choose in that situation? If would you like to keep, or you'd like to resurrect her back, or would you be like, I'm gonna let her go?
Me personally, I don't know. I think things like that I mean, I think like most things in life, until you experience them, it's really hard to know. We always have an idea of who we would like to be in any given situation. But so on that basis, I'd probably say I'd like to let her go and deal with my own feelings and grief and everything else. But for the greater good. But I don't know. I think things like that are really, I mean, that's why I think it's such a cool kind of central idea, because who knows, like it's like what we're driven by. Like a lot of us are really, driven by the idea of kind of finding something like love, something that feels outside of ourselves and unique. And then to kind of discover that and to feel like that's your kind of driving force, your motivation, but then to sort of let it go. What are you left with? So that's interesting stuff, I think.
You're right.
I don't know. I'd like to think I would let go, embrace the grief. But
it's hard to make those decisions, and you're right. Like, depends upon when that kind of decision comes to the person who is actually dealing with that exact situation, then it becomes a big choice. Like, it's most probably going to be the other one where you want to bring them back and not the first, like you want to let go because nobody wants to. But it's pretty cool, and that's why I also like that, because initially I was like thinking, what should I even do? And I was like sitting on that decision for a while. I was like, I gotta pick one. So I went with the Resurrection. But yeah, it's such a fun game, and I know people that have been enjoying it so much. I've seen a lot of people in the review section where people write about the game, and I've seen a lot of people like have good faith on this game and have been playing a lot. What is it that you want to say to the fans who have been playing this game, enjoying this game? Is there any message that you want to deliver?
Well, yeah, I mean just buy more of it. Just play more, buy more.
Yes, get more.
Tell your friends, spend on it. We need Banishers 2, 3, 4. No, I mean I've had some like really nice feedback and some really considered stuff, which is I thought quite meant something to me. I'd get a few messages from people that have sort of said, the performance has sort of touched them in some way, the story has touched them in some way, and that they like the performance because it kind of isn't typical of a video game performance. And I don't know that because I don't play them, but and I think they mean that in a positive way. So I really appreciate that, and the fact that it's, if you do anything, any work, and you feel like it sort of connects to people in a way that is positive in their lives in some way, then that's really cool. So I'm really glad that it seems to have found an audience. I suppose it's early days. I don't know how it works in terms of whether video games build over time in terms of their audience and stuff. But certainly, and people seem to have responded well to the storytelling, as much as anything else. And that's I guess I was part of that. And so that's really nice. So thank you for anyone who's playing it. And if anyone wants to help me stream, then I'm all ears. I think it'd be down to do it. But
I would love to see you stream. Love to play this game. See you play this game. I think I hope you enjoyed it as well as much as we are doing. So yeah, I feel like streaming would be so much fun to see you do it. But in the end, I just want to say big thanks for coming to this podcast and talking about everything. It was really fun getting to know some of the process, because I know there's a lot of people who are interested, especially now, who are interested into being an actor in games specifically. And so I feel like it's important in some ways to help them get the understanding of how it actually works in a studio, what you kind of get from the people who want you to play the character in a certain way. So giving some, thank you for kind of helping me give that insight, or giving the insight of how some things happens and how you kind of portray the role in your way. So thanks for all of that.
Yeah, if people want to get into voice work in video gaming, then I don't know the ideal route to do that, but for what it's worth, I didn't have an agent or voice, I hadn't done anything, and then I just recorded in a cupboard, just recorded some voices and sent them out. And so, I'm sure there's people think, oh, you've got to I don't know the right people or have the right agent or go to a studio and pay loads of money to get, and I'm sure there is a route there, but that wasn't mine. I mean, I really did just record a few different funny things in a cupboard on a dictaphone type thing, and sent it off, and then I got a start, and that wasn't that long ago. So if people want to get into it, then I don't think you need to be afraid necessarily that you don't have to have a special qualification.
Yeah, that's true. That's right. And yeah, thanks for sharing that. That's good. At least I think a lot of people kind of become afraid, because I'm kind of get interested in that side as well. But most part is oh, I don't know if that's for me. All that doubts and all that stuff happens. So yeah, I think at least taking that one step at least can help you figure out.